Welcome to Theme Weavers, your weekly wisdom for weaving yoga themes into your classes to inspire your students. We're your hosts, Heidi
and Farin. Get it together, Heidi. Get it together.
Okay. Welcome to episode 19 of Theme Weavers.
Oop, it's episode 18, actually. Episode 18.
Today we are going to talk about Ishvara Pranidhana, the last Niyama mentioned in the Yoga Sutras, which is found in Sutra 2.45. If you don't know what that is, or you want to learn about how to weave it through your class, then listen up. In case this is the first episode you're listening to, please check out episode 2 of our podcast, Theme Weavers podcast, for details and background on the structure of how and why to weave themes throughout your yoga classes. If you choose to use today's teaching on Ishvara Pranidhana, surrendering to the divine, as your theme while using the gift of our Inspo Sheet, then please find a way to turn our voices into yours. Make this theme authentic to you specifically. All right, Farin, take us on our last stop of the Niyamas.
Yeah, Ishvara Pranidhana. So it's what we talked about before, right? With the V coming after a consonant in the middle of a word. It's pronounced like a W, so just a little reminder there. So it's spelled Ishvara, but it's pronounced Ishvara Pranidhana. Yeah. Cool. So today we finish our exploration of the Niyamas, the second limb of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and with the final Niyama, Ishvara Pranidhana, often translated as surrender to the divine. Now, Ishvara Pranidhana is not about blind faith or relinquishing our personal responsibility. It is a deep sense of trust in a higher power, a recognition that we are part of something greater than ourselves. It is about releasing the need to control everything and allowing ourselves to be guided by a force beyond our individual understanding. It's about letting go of ego's grip and recognizing a force greater than ourselves. In daily life, Ishvara Pranidhana finds expression in surrendering your actions, thoughts, and outcomes to something beyond your control. It's about practicing detachment while still putting in your best effort. For instance, think of working really hard towards a goal, but being open to whatever outcome arises, acknowledging that sometimes the universe has a plan beyond our understanding. I think it's helpful to think of some ways we can incorporate Ishvara Pranidhana into our daily life. When we are faced with challenges, instead of reacting with anxiety or resistance, we can approach them with a sense of openness and acceptance, trusting that the universe has a plan for you. When we make decisions, instead of relying solely on our own intellect, we can seek guidance from our intuition and a higher power, believing that we are being supported in our choices. And lastly, in moments of frustration or doubt, we can try to surrender our worries to the divine, knowing that we're not alone and that we're part of a vast and interconnected universe.
Farin, this last Niyama is a hard one for me. For years when I read about this last Niyama, I struggled. But if I remove the word divine or God or universal consciousness and I pare things down, to me, this is a reminder that even though our ego tells us that we are important, we are all made of nature. And when I'm in nature and take in the wonder of all that is around me in this world, I feel that sacredness of life. This is about recognizing something that's larger than me and to surrender to that something. We all might have a different idea of what this is. And personally, I struggle to surrender to things that I don't have intellectual proof of. But instead of resisting, can we find surrender to the stillness of all that is? And I love my fellow social worker who does not know me, but I know her, Brene Brown. She said, spirituality is recognizing and celebrating that we are all inextricably connected to each other by a power greater than all of us. And that our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. So for me, I really liked that. But okay, so I think it helps to figure out what is the point then. What can surrendering to the divine help us with in our lives, especially if we don't really believe in a divinity, right? So our egos often lead to unnecessary stress and anxiety by clinging tightly to control. Practicing Ishvara Pranidhana allows us to release that burden, offering peace amidst uncertainty. However, like I said, the challenge arises in trusting something intangible, especially in a world that values tangible results and instant gratification. So practicing Ishvara Pranidhana can help us with our stress and anxiety. By surrendering the need to control everything, we reduce the mental and emotional strain that comes with constant striving, right? We feel a lot of stress when we feel like we are the ones responsible for changing and dealing with the outcome of everything. So when we surrender to that, we don't need to control things. We can feel less stress, less anxious. It can also help us with feelings of overwhelm. By trusting in a higher power, we alleviate the feeling of being burdened by the weight of the world. And lastly, it can help us overcome insecurity and self-doubt, because when we connect with a source of unconditional love and support, we strengthen our sense of self-worth and resilience. But I say all this, Farin, it's really hard for me because I just don't like that at all, personally.
Are you saying that you're like an atheist? Do you think of it like that? Or like...
It's funny because no, like I am Jewish, right? Like I believe that my religion has this beautiful power to connect me to community, to connect me to the ancestors that came before me, to connect me to tradition for the purpose of making life feel richer and fuller. But like in some ways I kind of am. Like I don't, when people are praying in synagogue, like I pray with them to create song and connection, but not because I believe anything or anyone is listening to me, or that like there's a God responsible for all that is happening. Because then like I still like, why does your son have cancer if there is a God? Why would a God do that to somebody, some innocent child? Or like, why would a God give me a kid whose heart is not working the way that it's supposed to, and that has to deal with that, or that makes him now struggle in school and not be able to handwrite? Like, why would a God create all the pain and suffering in our lives just to show me that I can surrender to this power that's above me? Like, that seems like total bullshit. Sorry, I did it. I swore again on the podcast. So, like, can I be a Jewish person that believes in organized religion and also not believe in a God as that organizing principle of my religion? I think so, but I don't know that every Jew would tell you that that's the case. I don't know.
Well, it's true for you, so then it's possible. So
yeah, I just don't know that all the Jews would agree. So Farin, you know my challenge, but like what other things could you come up with when practicing to surrendering to the divine?
And it's interesting too, because I'm taking a philosophy course right now, and that was like our last unit about God and whether God exists. And then one of the arguments is like, well, if there is a God, then why is there so much pain and suffering in the world? Then like God isn't completely good, God is evil. And like there's so much, I mean, you can argue on these points like forever and ever. Like philosophers are still doing it, right? There's no like,
I just remember Nietzsche. Remember Nietzsche had that quote, like, God is dead? Did you learn that one in your philosophy class? Nietzsche, the philosopher?
I don't remember.
No. I remember when I've taken philosophy classes, we often talk about Nietzsche because he said, God is dead. And it's like, what did he mean by that as a philosopher? What does that even mean?
Whoa. No, I think we're like mostly on modern day philosophers. Like they're still alive.
Yeah, not this guy. He's like long gone. I read a book once, and I don't remember anything from the book because it was when I was in high school, but it was like, it was written by, I think, a rabbi or a Jewish scholar called Harold Kushner, I think was his name, of like, it's kind of bullshit.
I think it's to strengthen like our moral resolve and like evolve our souls, like evolve our experience. So we're like, we have to have challenges. We have to like suffer and have pain and things to like become more evolved.
I mean, I guess I get that as like an adult. Like, I need to struggle in order to grow and transform, right? That's tapas, fine. Mm-hmm. But then I need to surrender to this divine energy that's causing the struggling, so that way I can grow, and that energy has it all like in a plan or taken care of. But like, why does your baby have to suffer? Like, what lesson is a baby gonna learn? You know, like, I just like, there's like what happened in Israel and what's going on in Israel and in Gaza, like, babies, why does this have to, what God would do that? Like, why am I surrendering to a divine energy that's doing this to like burning babies in ovens? Like, that's just insane. I don't get it. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to have the answer. You probably don't have the answer because like that would be weird.
I don't think anyone has answers. but this is the practice, right, of Ishvara Pranidhana is I mean, it's super challenging because you do have to practice that surrender. So it's incredibly hard for us to let go of control, especially when we don't like the outcome or don't think that we're going to like the outcome. And surrendering to the divine requires releasing our desire to have everything our way. And that's a challenging task for apparently you and I and probably everyone else listening to this. It may be challenging to trust the unknown. Like Heidi said, placing our faith in something beyond our understanding can be difficult for those who rely on logic and certainty. Science. Lastly, science. And lastly, it can be hard to face our fears. Surrender can bring up deep-seated fears of vulnerability and lack of control, requiring courage.
Sorry, on this podcast, have we said science before? Like I said it and then you repeated it. I just had like a crazy deja vu.
I don't think we did.
Like early, like one of our first episodes, I remember like sitting at my dining room table being like, I like science. And Farin went like, science. That was really weird.
I don't know.
It either happened or I knew it was going to happen. I don't know. Maybe that's Ishvara Pranidhana. But okay, so fine. So surrendering to a higher power, you get to experience a sense of freedom. Fine, great, whatever. But it can be liberating. Yeah, whatever. It's too hard. I don't get it. It's just very difficult for me. But I get intellectually how it would be liberating to acknowledge that while you do your part, there's a larger force guiding the universe, and how this practice can bring about acceptance, contentment, and a deeper sense of connection with the world around you. Like, I get that with my brain, but I don't believe it. Maybe, I don't know. I guess that's the I'm just not there yet. I'm not on my eighth limb. I'm there in some ways, but not in others. Like I'm there when I'm at the top of a cliff on a hike and I just feel like this giant, huge connection to the world around me. And I get that some things are just going to happen and there's no sense in fighting them. I don't know.
Yeah. So we found a practice that you actually struggle with.
I struggle with a lot of things, but like this, I really struggle with. I think I need, yeah.
And I think it goes back to last week's episode?
Swadhyaya?
Yeah. Of like discovering what that means about you. Like do a deep dive into yourself and like why surrendering is so hard.
Yeah. Crap.
You're like, no, I don't want to.
Can you just do it for me? Maybe you and John will just do it for me and I don't have to figure it out. All right, fine. I gotta practice. Fine. All right. I have a task. Farin, hold me accountable. Be my accountability buddy. All right. Let's just say that I've done this work or am going to do it. But in my everyday life, I'd start to, or you will if you're doing this, notice positive changes. Maybe you'll become more adaptable, less attached to specific outcomes, and more at peace with whatever life unfolds. Ishvara Pranidhana isn't about resignation. It's about trust and letting go of the need to control every aspect of your life. But like that, I can do. Like that, I'm fine with. I think it's just like the God thing. I don't know. I got to think on this one. But lastly, we might find a deeper connection to life when we experience a sense of interconnectedness with all beings and the universe as a whole. That I'm good with too. Where's my block with this and why?
It sounds like you need to do some swadhyaya.
Ugh. All right. I don't know. Let us know also if you're listening to this. Is this easy for you? Like, I think that it's probably... No, that's not what I want to say. I think for some people, it's ingrained into the culture of how they were raised to like surrender to a God. Mm-hmm. I guess it just, even though I grew up religious and having religion is a big part of my life, this wasn't a part of it.
Huh. That's so interesting. I did not grow up religious and I still don't consider myself religious. I don't ascribe to any religion. But I do think that during my first yoga teacher training, the 200-hour, is when I really actually felt like connected to something greater than myself. Because before that, I was pretty much an atheist or like an agnostic of like, I don't believe in God or like a higher power or whatever. And I'm in control of my life. I'm in control of everything that I do. And I have to like trust in myself and my own capabilities. And then during yoga teacher training, I'm not sure really what happened. It was like learning about all of this stuff, I guess, and then just like doing that self-work and self-study. And then there was just like a message that came to me that was just like, you can't stay in your marriage anymore, right? I had been married like, what, at that time, 13 years? So it was just like this message that came through of like, you can't stay in that marriage anymore. You need to get a divorce. And like, I've got you. And I didn't know what was telling me that, right? Whether it was just like myself and my own projection, or if it was literally like this higher power that was speaking to me. But I just had this like great sense of, it's got me. Like, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And I can trust and surrender to whatever just told me that. And then I did it, right? I filed for divorce. I got a divorce. And I've been okay. I had all these fears beforehand. But then when I just like felt that deep sense of like trust in something outside of myself, then that's when I was able to do it.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. That's where I found my Ishvara Pranidhana. That's where I found my spirituality. It's, yeah.
Maybe I'm dead on the inside.
I mean, I hope not.
I'm kidding. But like, can you still be a yogi and not do this?
I mean, you can still be a yogi and struggle with all of these practices. I think you're just in the middle of your like struggle session, and eventually that practice will, I don't know, find some results for you. But right now you have other things, right? You're like, you practice ahimsa, you practice asteya, you practice all this other stuff. This is the block. This is the one that's hard, but it doesn't make you not a yogi.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that, because I'm sure other people are thinking the same thing. And then this makes me think about religion, obviously. And I want us to take a moment to clarify the fact that like you can practice this without having religion. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the reason is the word doesn't really matter. And I'll give you an example. So a mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, was given to us in our 300-hour teacher training. And I struggled with it because of the definition that was provided. But when I shifted it to like consciousness or energy versus like God or divine, even though they're all the same thing, just the word that I ascribed to it helped me feel more comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's important, is that like, this isn't God. This isn't like the great mother or Jesus or whatever it is that you believe in. This is a higher power bigger than anything that you can see or feel. It just is. Mm-hmm. And that's not religion. But I think some people might get it confused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like an energy that connects us all.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to back up and clarify, Om Namah Shivaya, what does that translate to in English?
The translation that I remember is surrendering to the divine within. Mm. So for me, divine meant God. Mm-hmm. And that's where I struggled.
So you say your consciousness within, or your energy within.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I like it.
I don't know if that makes it wrong, but I don't think it makes it wrong. It's just a different interpretation.
Yeah.
Translation.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah. Tell me some thematic 3 lines. What would you say in class if you're teaching this? Have you taught this in class, by the way, ever?
Not that I recall. Actually, okay, no, once. I have literally gone through all of the yamas and the niyamas as kind of like a workshop style class. So I did teach this one time, but I don't remember how I taught it or what I taught it.
Yeah, that's fair. I've taught it twice also, 2 different times, going through the full yamas and niyamas and regular, not workshop, but regular classes, but it was like a series that people signed up for, the whole series. So it was not like random people showing up and I'm like, let's talk about God. Yeah. Like that I haven't ever done that.
Yeah.
I have talked about death in a class though. We'll talk about that one day. Oh. That's an interesting one.
Oh, okay. As we are going through class and teaching, we like to fall back on our thematic 3-line phrases to help remind the students of what we're practicing. So a few of these that you can use are let go and trust the process, and surrender to what is, let go of what was, have faith in what will be.
If you download our Inspo Sheet, found at themeweaversyoga.com/episode 19.
Episode 18.
We list all of these out for you and more. We have inspirational quotes that remind you of the practice of Ishvara Pranidhana, some songs that bring the theme to life, as well as mantras, mudras, pranayama, postures, and meditation to weave into your class. And Farin, I came up with an amazing peak posture.
What is it?
Shavasana.
Ooh, what? How's that a peak posture? Okay, tell me.
I mean, I don't really know. But I think for some people, I have students tell me constantly, This is actually the same peak posture I do with my death class. But
this is what I teach in my death class.
Spoiler alert, one day you're going to have to keep listening to find out what that is. But Heidi's death class, I have a lot of students tell me that this is the hardest pose for them in the entire yoga class, even when I give them like a beastly challenging physical posture. This is the most challenging because they have to actually sit with themselves in quiet and be with themselves and sort of process everything that's happened. And that's really hard for them. And they have to surrender to the fact that I have to be here. I get to be here. And I get to see what's in store for my experience of being here. So it's more of like a mental peak pose, if you will, which is not how I usually teach, but maybe you do an active version of Shavasana earlier where like you're laying down actively, right? Like your feet are in full dorsiflexion, your fingers are fully extended, you're like pushing the back of your shoulders into the earth, lengthening the back of your, like you are actively laying there basically in a mountain pose on the ground. Mm-hmm. And then can you surrender to that, right? Can you surrender, let everything go, just know that you're being held and be okay with that.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. So it's different, right? Usually our peak poses are more active.
Yeah.
Why not?
For sure.
Would you do something different? Like the hardest yoga pose in the world and surrender to the fact that like you're being able to stay here?
But no, I really love your idea of just like surrendering. I mean, that's the ultimate surrender pose is corpse pose. Like you're done.
Mm-hmm. And being okay with that.
Yeah. Being okay with that. That's rough. Like that's the whole practice of Ishvara Pranidhana, at least for like us, because we resist it so much and we don't like it because we want to be in control and we don't.
Oh wait, you don't like it too? You were making this all about me. Wait a minute, Farin. You were all like, this is Heidi's practice. Heidi's little self-study. Heidi's got all the work to do because Heidi. What?
Okay, but I just feel like I'm a little bit further along in the practice than you might be. That's what I was referring to because I was like able to do it at least once in my life. But I don't still struggle with it.
Oh, I love this. I love our banter and our way, Farin.
See, we're still friends.
It's so good. Oh my God, are we ever? It makes me love you even more that you can be like, I'm just better at this than you, but I still struggle. And I can be like, yay, Farin! Yay for being better than me. You're a better yogi.
Well, I mean, you're farther along in your practice than a lot of these other things, but this is one where I'm like, okay, I'm actually winning.
Oh my God, she's winning, guys. She's winning at yoga. Look at this. Out of the mouth of a yoga teacher with a podcast, she's winning at yoga. You heard it here first.
Oh my God, I'm the worst.
God, I love us. All right, Farin, wrap us up because we're like all over the place. Wrap us up. How do you end this amazing class after your peak pose of Shavasana?
Yeah. Okay, so after Shavasana, after they have relinquished control, I would say embrace Ishvara Pranidhana. Let go of the need to control and surrender to the flow of life. Trust in something greater and watch as peace and serenity fill your hearts. Take this practice off of your mat and into the rest of your life and your world by surrendering to that energy that we're all connected to. Now go to our website, themeweaversyoga.com/episode18. You can find that link in our show notes and request the Inspo Sheet for Ishvara Pranidhana to help you bring this theme alive in your own voice and practice and teaching. Reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, or email and let us know how it lands with your students because we're here to support you as a fellow yoga teacher and we want to know how we can be of the most support.
We sure do. So tune in next week for another episode of Theme Weavers, which you're going to have to be surprised about because it's not the yamas and niyamas anymore because check done. We did it. Where we will help you feel prepared to go on and inspire your students in the next class. If you're unsure how to structure or how to weave your theme throughout the class, go back to episode 2, Why Weave? The importance of threading intention into your yoga for background and inspiration. And remember, this is a practice. We are both practicing it. Nobody's winning, right? Like this is just a practice. It's just another tool that we can use on our journey. So until next time,
we weave you in peace.
Peace. and surrender to the divine within and without. All the divine, all the things. Surrender.
Ishvara Pranidhana.